I'm doing great. How are you? I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you. Where are you calling in from today?
I live in Oakland, California. I'm currently calling in from Washington, D.C. I'm here for some work. So yes.
Awesome, awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
So before we jump into the questions here, I want to invite our audience. No, you can fire up that chat. There's been so much great participation. Please bring them in as the chat's going in. So, in those last 2 minutes, we're getting 10 questions. Pepper them in the next 30 minutes. I invite you to bring it in so we can have time to answer your questions. Please, please, please do. So Lexi, can you tell me a bit about yourself, your career journey before we jump into the Q&A here?
Yeah. I would love to. So I am a dark-skinned woman born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri. I'm a Black American. My descendants are kidnapped African bodies in the transatlantic slave trade. I always start with that as my identity because I think that Black is not a monolith. And so to really understand me, or at least have an understanding of the angles that I'm coming from, that is the historical narrative. Born and raised in St. Louis, like I said, moved out to California at 18 to go to school in the San Francisco Bay Area. And at 22, graduated my undergrad degree and started working in tech. I have worked in tech my whole career at companies such as NetApp, Airbnb, Facebook, Twitter, and now I'm currently at a startup. And so a lot of the work that I do, a lot of the speaking that I do, a lot of the thought leadership that I do is from two lenses. One, this understanding of how to be a freedom fighter at work for you and the other people that work around you, understanding that equity and equality are different, and understanding that how you show up in the world, depending on what room you're in, really activates your privilege layers or lack of privilege layers. And so how do you understand your privilege layers in order to help someone else in that moment? The other types of themes that I really discuss and that I love to discuss is this idea that capitalism, for most people, is trash. And we do it because we have bills to pay. And so what does it look like for all of us who work in capitalism and and whether or not we like it, have to work within capitalism to really understand our actual dreams and to understand that you are actually not your job. That is not your value in the world. But if you can understand who you are and what you actually want out of your personal life, you can leverage your job and your career to get those things. Yes.
I love that. Thank you for sharing a bit about yourself. And I love these intentions and this relationship to, I am not necessarily, like, what I do is not necessarily who I am, but I love how you said you can leverage that into what you want to do and what you're currently doing. So, and maybe that might involve a change, right? So let's talk about what we can consider as we embark on the journey of career planning. Like, where do we even start? Maybe we're new, maybe we're realizing now, oh, wow, I need to make a big change, but I have no idea how to begin this wild journey. What do I do?
It's a great question. So I think the first thing, and this is the hardest part, is activating what you want. The number of people that slide in my DMs who ask me to have a one-on-one with them, which I'm happy to do. And then I get to the one-on-one, right, Hunter? And I'm like, okay, so what are we doing? And they're like, well, I don't know what I want. And I sit there and I think, well, I can't tell you what you want. I'm still trying to figure out what I want, right? I think one of the best examples is, Hunter, someone asking you to help them get to the Target down the street. And you say, okay, bet. And you get in the car and you're like, so are we going to Target or are we going to McDonald's? And then they say, I don't know. You actually can't help them get there. They have to give you a starting point. And that's the hardest thing. One of the best ways to do that is, one, just start something. Go do the job, right? There is nothing wrong with doing a job that you don't like. And I'm sure that's a very controversial saying. We've all done it. What's wrong with doing a job that you don't like is continually doing the same job without taking stock on all the things that you don't like. I need you to start somewhere. And if you can start somewhere, then we can start having a conversation of, one, at the job, the things that you don't like and the things that you do like. And let's start activating the things that you do like and start creating a career plan for the things that you do like. The second piece, the harder piece also, is that because I strongly believe that your career is not your identity. It can be if that's what you really want it to be. And I want that for you. If that's what you truly want it to be, what do you want your life to look like? Because many times, folks, we have people that are building thriving careers, and it's not because they necessarily care about the topic. It's because the career they have built aligns to the personal dreams they want in the world. Maybe they're working at that company because that company gives the best baby leave in the world. Maybe they're working at that company because the company allows them to travel, and that's what they want to do for the next 2 years, right? Maybe they're working at that company because it's a 4-day work week, right? And so you have to really understand your personal life and what you want out of the next 2 years of your personal life. And then also the long-term trajectory of your personal life to actually be really happy in your career. And a lot of times we have people that are putting a lot of effort into identifying the things they do or do not like at work, the actual tasks, and they figure that out, right? Like, oh, I want to be creative at work. Okay, cool. I'm going to go look for these creative jobs. And over a 3 to 4 year period, they finally find a job that really balances their creativity, but then they're still unhappy. And it's because they haven't done the work to say, how does this creative job, because I like being creative at work, align with my personal goals? And the personal goals are a lot harder sometimes for people to actually have a conversation with themselves and others about.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you maybe give us a little sneak peek at some of the tools that you would recommend of, like, when people are like taking stock, they're doing these inventories, it can feel overwhelming sometimes to maybe try to be like, how do I even like map all of that out? Are there little suggestions that you can make?
100%. So first and foremost, everyone needs to know that this is very hard work. And so if you feel that way, it's okay, because everyone feels that way. And the reason why you feel that way, especially as a woman, since it is International Women's Day today, is because what white patriarchal supremacy, one of the many oppressions that it has given people, including the people that actually sit in white patriarchal norms, is they kidnap you from dreaming. We all have decided, for the most part, except for those outliers who in many times in history, they're the weird ones. They're the ones who talk too much, right? But we have this idea that everyone's dreams are the same, and they're not. And so I always tell people that when you are at a crux in your career, you're first starting your career, the first thing you need to do is you need to start dreaming. And how you do that, at least in my opinion, is therapy. And therapy is also expensive. And so we have to acknowledge that privilege. If you are not in a position where it's being paid for by your insurance, or you cannot afford it, it's actually talking to a lot of people. It's talking to a lot of people about their lifestyles. And it's starting to make inventory about the kind of lifestyle you want. It's this idea of like, do I want to be a parent? Do I not want to be a parent? Or do I not know yet? So if I don't know yet, I should probably make room for the possibility. Right? Do I want to go on 6 vacations a year? Do I not want to go on 6 vacations a year for the rest of my life? Hey, how much time do I want to work? Do I want to work till I'm 65, or do I want to stop this capitalism at 40? Right? The things you have to consider. And so therapy / talking to other people, and in those conversations, challenging them to challenge you, learning about the decisions that they made and see if they actually align to yours. B, I cannot recommend enough to people to get a financial advisor. What a lot of people don't know is that financial advisors, they're not actually talking to you about money. They're talking to you about lifestyle. And it was an eye-opening experience for me when I was in my mid-20s, when I actually went to my first financial advisor. I went because I spend too much money on shoes and I was tired of living paycheck to paycheck. And in the first 2 months, what I realized is that this person wasn't talking to me about money and my shoe habit. He was talking to me about my lifestyle. And he was asking me questions like, hey, in a perfect world, do you want a penthouse apartment in New York that's $1.5 million? Do you want a 3-bed, 2-bath in Nashville? Do you want a huge mansion outside of London? All of these options are great. They're all very different, and they all require a different amount of money. We live in a capitalist world. And unfortunately, while I can't change that today, I need to actually understand my relationship to money. And I need to understand what I want in my life and in my world. And then I can build a career that actually gives those things to me.
That's so important. And sorry if you can hear my dog barking. He is my personal doorbell right now, and someone just left a package. I apologize about that. Working from home, y'all. Here's the realities. So could you talk to me a bit about what the definition of done is, and where does it fit in our career journeys?
Yes. So I come from an operations background. And so the definition of done at work literally means that I'm sitting down with someone and I'm saying, okay, you said you want the walls painted. I'm telling you that I define the walls being painted and the completion of that is X. There are 4 layers of paint on the wall. We have also decided what color we're going to do. So if we're going to do a red wall, we have decided that it's going to be this specific color of red. Because imagine painting a wall with someone and they say, I want a red wall. And then you go get like the clown nose red, and then they go get a light red. The definition of done is off course. And so I always tell people, once you start really navigating your dream and you start saying, hey, this is what I want in the next 3 years. In the next 3 years, I want to own a home. In the next 3 years, I want to go on a $10,000 vacation to Mars. Whatever that dream is, then you need to go to work and identify the definition of done for your work. You need to decide, am I currently at this company right now because I want a promotion? Because that promotion is going to give me this next money opportunity for XYZ. I promise y'all, if you want a promotion, that's fantastic. Promotions take time, money, and energy. So you need to go to your job and have a real conversation with your manager about what the definition of done is for that promotion. So you walk in and say, okay, so how do we define this promotion? What are all the things that I have to do to get this promotion? And for the record, you said you wanted the promotion. So you might need to spend more time at work, which means for this period and chapter of your life, your personal life is not going to be a priority. And that's okay, because you decided that that promotion is somehow directly correlates to that dream that you want. So you sacrifice in that moment for that promo so you can have that dream. Or opposite side, you've decided that currently your dream requires a lot of time and energy outside of work. And so what that means is that the definition of done with your manager at work is, okay, so hey, what are the things that I need to do to keep my job? I would not say it like that, but the conversation, that's what it is. It's the conversation of like, okay, so hey, for the next 6 months, let's talk about what you expect from me. So what you're telling yourself is that, hey, maybe I'm not going above and beyond in my career right now. And it's funny to me how when I say that out loud, it sounds so controversial, because a lot of people always want you to go above and beyond in your job. And that's great. And what I'm telling you is that we should no longer be dreaming and jobbing based on other people's dreams. So if right now the next step in your dream requires you to have more at home time, requires you to have more emotional attachment to something else, right? Then maybe your dream at work is not getting a promo in the next 6 months. Maybe it's doing the work well, but doing the work in order to be able to go home and do whatever you need to do for that next step in your dream. And guess what? That's okay, because people do it all the time, whether or not they're publicly discussing it.
I love that. I love how the check into what truly is important to our values can determine what we need in our next step. And that isn't always, as you said, capitalism can be garbage, but we live in it. It's not always more money. It's not always, it might be time.
It might be time. And time is, it's funny. I always joke with people and I always say, Hunter, like, I can make more money. I cannot make more time. And as you dream, just understand that if you are good at your job, you will always make more money, which means that if you need to go make cash right now, you will be able to go make it because you're good at your job, right? I can never get more time in my funnel. So whenever I'm at work or I'm activating work, I decide what I need in the next 18 months. And that's literally how I behave and perform with capitalism, with my 9-to-5 job. And that doesn't mean that I'm not doing my job well. Let's make that very, very clear. But what that means is that you may not get 18-hour days from me. You may not get the weekends. I'm not responding to your Slack at 6 p.m. And that's okay, right? Versus if I'm in this chapter right now of like, I want that promo, I'm trying to impress somebody, there is something at work that I need that is a stepping stone to my dream that is outside of work, to my dream that is literally the liberation that I've defined for myself, I'm going to do my job well from certain hours.
Right? I love that. Yeah, because what you're also talking about is boundaries.
Boundaries are blessings. Boundaries are blessings. Change your life. Change your life. Yes. Okay.
Yep. So let's talk about power dynamics. So what should we know about the ever shifting power dynamics that are in the workplace, and how can folks use them to actually benefit from them?
So one, I think power dynamics are so interesting because half the time power dynamics are not the ones that the org chart says that they are. So the org chart gives us these sexy titles, right? Senior VP of blah, 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 right? You know, president of this, chief of staff of this. That don't mean anything. You need to be able to go to work, whether it's virtually or in person, and figure out who actually runs the room. I always tell folks in your first 90 days of a first job, that is the most important thing. Two things. One, know what your boss expects from you. Back to the definition of done. Hey, Hunter, as your boss, this is what I need done. And then Hunter should be asking me a lot of questions of what that actually means, right? Because when you go to work, your job is actually not your job description, and your job is actually not what you think it is. Your job is what your manager says it is. And many times in the interview, the hiring manager won't actually tell you that. They'll dance around it, but they're not going to tell. That's a lot of effort. Also, shout out to all the hiring managers who don't even know half the time what the job is. Okay, let's be very clear about that. So you need to understand that. You also need to start figuring out who actually runs this space. And many times it's not the person with the sexy title. It's the person with the sexy title. It's their plus one. It's the person that they actually talk to on a Saturday. It's the person in the room that knows what they really want. It's the person in the room that knows who they don't like at the company. It's that person. And that's the person who actually has the most power. That's the person that usually knows what's coming up in the pipeline. That's the person who's watching the room and deciding like, oh yeah, Hunter made that good comment. Maybe he could actually run that one thing next month. I'm going to go tell the person that I work for with the sexy title about Hunter, and be very clear about that. The person with the title is not always the person with the power. The person with the title is the person that signs the document. There's some other person that has the power and that has the influence to decide what's going to be on that document. And that person should be your friend, because regardless if you're right now having a chapter of using my time to build my dream outside of work, or using my time to build the next step of my dream inside of work, you having a good relationship with that person will help all of that. If you know the connector and you know the person and you build a relationship with them, then you can also use that information to your advantage. So you can say things like, oh yeah, I really want to work on that one thing. And I want to work on that one thing because that one thing actually gives me the skills, right, to work on this thing outside of work. Yeah, I want to work on the real estate project. You know why? Because I'm thinking about buying a house and I want to learn about the taxes in that. So, hey, person with the power, is there something coming up in the next 2 months on the real estate team? Because that'd be great, right? Is it the conversation where it's like, hey, I currently work in accounting. I've always wanted to work for a media company. The person with the power, for all we know, may know that we're about to do a partnership with a media company. Oh, well, I need that experience. So I can put that, hey, person with power, you need an extra senior accountant on that. I'll just take notes, whatever you need, I'm there, right? Because you've decided that your dream is to go work for a media company and you currently work for a hospital or a bank. But here's the little opportunity where you can get experience working in media And then you can be able to start then applying to companies and media, and you can use that one project as the catalyst for getting you someplace else. But in order to do that, you have to know that that's what you want. So you're just not at work, just working on random things. Because here's the fun fact, Hunter. If you do your job and you do it well, you're going to get paid regardless. The money will clear. So why aren't we clearing the money by being strategic about the type of things that we do at work? And that strategy should be based on what we actually want for our life, right?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, so powerful. And I love that it keeps going back to like, what do we want? And how can we not be these like, dividing ourselves up into these different compartments, but actually, as you used the word earlier, leveraging these parts of our career to help fulfill our big dreams. And I love that we keep, you're fueling me with these different tools here right now. This is so awesome. So another thing that some folks can struggle with is advocating for themselves, right? Oh, I don't want to take up too much space. I don't want to overstep. I don't want to seem like I'm being overly networky. There's all these but ifs and stuff in our head. But so how do we get over that? How do we get the confidence to speak up for ourselves, and how can we strengthen it?
Yeah, so I think that in order for you to be comfortable with advocating for yourself, you have to be extremely comfortable with rejection. And I had a grandmother. So like I said, I grew up in the Midwest. And so both sides of my family are really from the South. And so I really grew up with this like baptism narrative, like the Black church narrative. And I had a grandmother who would always say, they talked about Jesus, what they gonna do to you? And they told him no, what they gonna do to you? And so I got very comfortable with rejection very early in my life, even as a child on the playground. I cannot express to you enough, especially as women, intersectional women of all different identities, how sometimes terrifying the word no can be, whether it's somebody telling you no in your face or whether somebody just not responding to your call. And my response also is that if you don't ask, you will not get. Closed mouths do not get fed. The happiest people in the world are the people that open their mouths and say, this is what I want and this is what I need. The happiest people in the world are the ones that use social networking, that go on LinkedIn, that go to work, that Slack or chat that one person they saw in a meeting who doesn't know who they are. And they say, hey, so Hunter, I was in that meeting with you a couple of days ago, would love to connect and get coffee. I need some advice on that topic you were talking about, or I just want to connect. The worst thing Hunter can do is just not respond. Okay. But the likelihood of Hunter responding and say yes is very high, because guess what? Hunter has done it for other people as well. So my concern with people not self-advocating for themselves is that they're sitting in a corner and they're, in fetal position, terrified to ask the question to a person who asks all the questions all the time. No one receives the liberation, and that's how I define a dream, is whatever you define your liberation. No one receives their own liberation unless they ask the questions and they ask people to help them get there. And the happiest people in the world, they do not allow other people to define their happiness, AKA they do not sit there with their closed mouth and hope that one day just sees them and notices them. They say, hey, I want to work on that one thing. Or they say, hey, I'm really interested in going to work for the Paris office, right? They say, hey, I would just love to have a Slack with you to learn more about your career. And they get to that, Slack, they get to that coffee. And then they just say, I just want to learn more about you. And they start connecting the dots, right? 6 people who are very successful in their career, whether they are happy or they are sad, and there's a myriad of both of those emotions, they do not get to that height of success with closed mouths. So I cannot stress enough about your self-advocacy. And your self-advocacy does not just come out when times are bad. Your self-advocacy does not just come out when someone says something completely inappropriate to you at work and you have to go to HR. Your self-advocacy literally starts with your manager when you say, hey, what's the definition of done for this stuff? Because I'm trying to make sure it aligns to what I want to do. That's self-advocacy. And so the sooner you start self-advocating for yourself in times of happy, it's so much easier to do it in times of stress.
Absolutely.
Start asking what you want.
Asking what you want. I love over a Slack. Those are the times we live in these days. Yeah, let's meet up on. No, I know, but I'm getting it. I was like, that's what I do. I'm like, we use Slack at Power to Fly. So it's like, let's hop on a huddle and let's just have a chat. It could be with people that you work with. It could be people outside of your sector, maybe someone you met on Power to Fly, people could slide into Lexi B's DM, see if they want to have a talk, about stuff like that. Yeah. Come through, people. Yeah. So we only have 2 minutes left. So is there anything else that you want our listeners to take away in this conversation that maybe we haven't touched on yet?
I think the biggest thing is that you need to really do the work for yourself. And that sounds so cheesy and so like hipster self-love. But if you really want to build a life that is yours, that you appreciate, that you love, stop allowing other people to tell you what that looks like. You have to come to work every day with the intention of, I am here because I want to travel the world. I am here because in 5 years, I want to sell all of my belongings and I'll have enough cash in the bank and I want to move to Mount Kilimanjaro. You have to be that indignant about your personal life and your personal endeavors in order for you to walk into capitalism, into these workplaces, and not only be your best self, but get what you want out of it. And I want people to really understand that and do the work to try to get there, because or else they're going to look back on your career and you're going to be intrinsically unhappy. That's not fair. Yeah.
We do not want that. We want to, we want to be fulfilled. We don't want to live with that. If only I had done blank.
Exactly. Right?
Right?
I want you to live with, oh my gosh, I actually did blank.
Yeah.
But that comes from you. So
we got to
jump
know
off the cliff for yourself.
Yeah, we got to know if we want to go to Target or we want to go to McDonald's.
Yes. And then we can call Hunter and be like, I want to go to McDonald's, Hunter. How do I get there? And then Hunter can say, okay, you make a left up here. Or Hunter can say, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I know someone who knows. So yeah.
Well, Lexi B, thank you so much for making the time today. How can folks keep the conversation going with you if they want to reach out?
Yes, feel free to find me on LinkedIn and follow and or connect with me and send a chat, and we'll definitely make time.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for making the time today. And we hope to have you back. Thanks again.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.